The sun was barely peeking over the horizon as Ethan Hayes stepped out of his dusty pickup truck in the private hangar lot of a small airport. His boots crunched against the gravel, the scent of fuel and fresh morning dew mingling in the air, while the hum of nearby aircraft engines buzzed a backdrop for what Ethan hoped would be one of the most important days of his life. Adjusting his worn, wide-brimmed hat, a staple he had worn while working the fields for decades, Ethan's denim shirt and weathered overalls told a story of labor-intense days in the sun. At 50, he was no stranger to skepticism or sideways glances, but today was different. He was here to fulfill a vision, one born from years of hard work, determination, and a dream to revolutionize his family farm. As Ethan walked into the hangar, he was greeted by gleaming jets lined up like trophies, their polished surfaces reflecting the golden morning light. A few suited men milled about, deep in conversation. As Ethan approached the reception desk, a tall man in a crisp navy suit caught sight of him. His eyes darted from Ethan's scuffed boots up to his faded clothes and straw hat. The man's polite smile wavered just for a fraction of a second before he approached. "Good morning," Ethan said, extending a hand. "I'm here to see about buying a jet." The man's brow lifted, his smile tightening. "You're here to buy a jet?" His tone was carefully neutral, but he could barely hide his disbelief. Ethan had faced doubters before and knew how to handle them. He nodded. "That's right. I'm Ethan Hayes." Ethan wasn't always the man walking into an airport hangar to buy a jet. He was born and raised in a small farming town in Arkansas and had grown up watching his parents struggle to keep their farm afloat. They taught him two invaluable lessons: never let your circumstances define you and always find a way to adapt. By his early 20s, he'd inherited Hayes Farms. The fields stretched wide, but profits were razor-thin. For years, he poured every ounce of energy into finding ways to survive: local markets, seasonal labor, even odd jobs during harsh winters. Nothing seemed to be enough. That all changed the day Ethan decided to stop following tradition and start innovating. He realized that if he could ship his crops directly to urban areas across the country, he could cut out the middleman and reach customers immediately. It wasn't easy, banks didn't trust him, and neighbors called him foolish. But Ethan pushed forward and eventually secured a contract with a nationwide grocery chain. Ethan invested in refrigerated trucks and expanded into dairy and meat. By the time he drifted into his 40s, his farm was supplying products to 10 states. But now, at age 50, he had another bold idea: direct delivery by air. The jet would enable him to transport produce faster than any competitor, greatly improving freshness and ensuring quality. To Ethan, the jet wasn't just a luxury, it was a vital tool to elevate his business. Stepping further into the hangar, Ethan noticed the salesman, Kyle Anderson, eyeing him skeptically as he adjusted the cuff of his neatly tailored sleeve. "What kind of jet are you interested in?" Kyle asked, his tone polite but edged with disbelief. Ethan smiled, a steady grin shaped by years of hard work. "I need something reliable that can carry fresh produce across the country without a hitch." Kyle's reaction, however, was far from encouraging. "Mr. Hayes," he began, emphasizing Ethan's surname as if he were unsure it belonged to someone like him. "These aircraft are designed for a particular clientele. Are you certain this is what you're looking for?" Ethan had faced condescension before. He was prepared for this, as he had endured it his entire life. "I know what I need," he said evenly. Kyle gestured toward a sleek jet parked under bright overhead lights. "This is the Falcon 500. It's ideal for business use. It seats 8 comfortably and has excellent cargo capacity. The starting price is $4 million. The way Kyle pronounced the figure seemed almost like a dare, but Ethan stood firm. He stepped closer to the jet, running his hands along its smooth exterior, his fingers tracing the craftsmanship. "How much weight can it handle?" he asked. Kyle hesitated. "Well, it depends. Most of our clients use it for executive purposes," he replied, carefully selecting his words. "Are you sure it meets your needs?" Ethan turned to face him, his expression calm but unyielding. "I'm transporting produce, not passengers. The weight specs are critical." Kyle blinked, clearly thrown off by the word produce. "Mr. Hayes, this is a luxury jet, not a delivery truck." The remark stung, but Ethan refused to show it. He knew Kyle's type, men who measured worth by what they wore, not by the sweat they left behind. "I'm aware of what it is, Kyle," Ethan replied firmly. Before Kyle could respond, another man approached, also dressed sharply but with a friendlier demeanor. He greeted Kyle before turning to Ethan. "Good morning, I'm Mike. Can I answer any questions for you?" "I'm interested in purchasing a jet for transporting goods," Ethan said. "I'd like to know more about this one." Mike quickly glanced at Kyle, picking up on the tension but choosing to ignore it. "Of course, Mr. Hayes. The Falcon 500 is versatile and has a maximum cargo capacity of 3,000 pounds. Would you like to step inside?" For the first time, Kyle looked genuinely uncomfortable. As they climbed on board, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. The cabin was pristine, luxurious leather seats gleaming under soft lighting. The layout was luxurious, but Ethan imagined the crates of fresh produce they could load and the cities he could reach. Kyle lingered near the door, arms crossed, skepticism seeping from every pore. "You'd need to make some modifications," he said sharply. "Jets like this aren't typically used for hauling produce." Ethan turned, calm but piercing. "Efficiency is efficiency, regardless of what you're transporting," he stated. Mike cleared his throat, sensing the rising tension. "It's true, we've had clients customize jets for various purposes. It's all about meeting your needs, Mr. Hayes." With every passing moment, Kyle's discomfort became palpable. "What kind of operation are you running?" he asked, laced with thinly veiled condescension. Ethan paused, choosing his words. "I manage Hayes Farms," he said steadily. "We supply fresh produce, dairy, and meat to grocery chains across 10 states. My team consists of over 60 employees, and last year we generated $14 million in revenue." A heavy silence descended within the cabin. Kyle's smirk faltered, replaced by disbelief. $14 million, he repeated, scarcely able to grasp the reality. "That's right," Ethan replied. "We're growing. The demand keeps increasing. This jet will help us meet it. My customers rely on quality and speed." Mike looked genuinely impressed, while Kyle struggled to process what he had just heard. That's quite the operation," he stammered, attempting to recover. "I didn't realize." Ethan pressed on. "You looked at me and assumed." The words hung in the air, undeniable and heavy. Kyle opened his mouth to respond but faltered. "Mr. Hayes," Mike broke in, "I believe this jet could be an excellent fit for your needs. If you'd like, I can connect you with our customization team to discuss modifications." "I'd appreciate that," Ethan replied. "Let's make it happen." Kyle shifted uncomfortably, his confidence visibly shaken. As they exited the jet, Ethan could feel both their gazes on him, questions and disbelief hanging in the air unspoken. "Did everything square away?" Mike asked, trying to lighten the mood. Ethan nodded. "Just tying up loose ends." Just then, a small group of people gathered near the front desk caught Ethan's attention. One of them, a passionate young mechanic in his 20s in a crisp uniform, was speaking animatedly with an older manager. The younger man seemed desperate, as though pleading for an opportunity, but the manager appeared dismissive. For reasons he couldn't explain, Ethan felt compelled to intervene. He walked over, determined to make an impact beyond just selling or buying. "Is everything all right here?" Ethan's voice was steady but commanding. The manager turned toward him, his expression polite but guarded. "Can I help you, sir?" Ethan looked at the young man, who straightened his posture. "I was asking about an opening for an apprentice in the aviation maintenance program," he said, his voice revealing his quiet determination. "But I don't think I'm what they're looking for." Ethan felt a pang of empathy. He saw himself in this young man, his own years of fighting to prove himself in a world quick to judge. "Give me a second," Ethan said firmly. He turned his attention to the manager. "And why wouldn't he be what you're looking for?" he asked, voice calm but unmistakably firm. The manager stammered, "Well, it's not that he isn't qualified. We just have many applicants and prioritize those with more experience." "Experience or something else?" Ethan shot back. The young man's eyes widened as he looked from Ethan to the manager. "Derek," Ethan said gently, Don't let anyone tell you your worth is tied to someone else's idea of experience. Derek nodded, fire sparking in his eyes. Thank you, sir. Ethan turned back to the manager, who looked increasingly uneasy. I'm purchasing a jet that will require maintenance, and I want to trust your team. If you truly want the best, you should be giving opportunities to those willing to work for them. The manager's face turned red and he quickly regained composure. Of course, sir. We'd be happy to reconsider Derek's application. Good. But remember this, belief can change everything, Ethan replied, then turned back to Derek. Keep pushing forward. If someone won't give you a chance, find someone who will. As Ethan walked back toward Mike and Kyle, he sensed their eyes on him, unsaid questions swirling in the air. Everything all right? Mike asked, trying to lighten the mood again. Just tying up some loose ends, Ethan replied with a hint of a smile. As he stepped outside into the crisp air, carrying the faint scent of jet fuel, he looked up at the sky. The jet would not just change his business, it symbolized a shift, a testament to what could be achieved when one refused to let others define their limits. On the drive back from the airport, the weight of the day settled upon him. The deal was done, the jet was his. But what stayed with him most was the look on Derek's face, the flicker of hope that felt so familiar. Ethan thought back to his own journey through struggles and dismissals. Yet here he was, an ordinary man about to use a private jet to transport fresh produce across the country, not defined by expectations but by his refusal to let them dictate his worth. Success wasn't merely measured in financial accomplishments. It involved the lives touched along the way, the people lifted up when no one else believed they mattered. As Ethan continued driving, he reflected on his legacy, creating opportunities like those he had received. The real triumph wasn't the jet, it was knowing that every step forward could pave the way for someone else to follow. In the end, Ethan said softly to himself, you are more than what the world sees. His heart swelled with pride as he recalled Derek's appreciation and gratitude. They were embarking on a journey toward change, not just for themselves but for countless others. As he reached home, Ethan was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. It was time to spread his wings, not just in business but by inspiring others, reminding them that their dreams were valid, their hard work meaningful, and their perseverance would always matter. Epilogue. A horizon of possibilities. Months later, the Falcon 500 was airborne, crossing state lines as it transported crates of fresh produce to urban markets. Ethan was at the helm, not just a farmer, but a businessman who dared to redefine his limits. Derek, now an apprentice, stood in the maintenance hangar, eyes shining with determination. He was utilizing every ounce of what Ethan had inspired within him, proving that belief in oneself could lead to great things. Ethan understood that not only had he purchased a jet, he'd taken a leap toward leaving a legacy, one that honored those who believed in him when the odds were stacked against him. If Ethan Hayes' story inspires you, remember, resilience isn't about ignoring the doubters, it's about proving them wrong. And when you lift up others in the process, that's success in its truest form. The journey was just beginning and the sky was the limit.